This is FIBA Podcast. Thank you for joining us in our morning daily devotion.
Good morning. Let's continue our study from the Epistle of Jude, and we are doing verse number 8. Yesterday, we started a thought about defiling the flesh, and we observed few things. Let me continue from where I left. So, the Word of God gives us important directions and commandments as to how we can ensure that we don't defile our flesh. When we read the Word of God, especially the teachings of Jesus in the Gospels, we see how Jesus lays a foundation about the value of taking care of our eyes so that we do not defile our flesh through our eyes. There are numerous references for that, and if I am to read all of them, it will take a long time. So I'm just stating a few. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. Luke chapter 11, verse 34. Matthew chapter 5, verse 28 and 29. Matthew 18, 9. Mark 9, 47. All of these verses help us understand the value of protecting our eyes. Or in other words, it teaches us the difference between a good and a bad eye, the result of a good eye and the result of a bad eye. Now, that doesn't mean that we have some problem with our eyesight and we are using specs. No. It's about how we train our eyes, what they should see, what they shouldn't see. Or in other words, what are those things that will cause our flesh to be defiled if we don't control our eyes. Likewise, in Matthew chapter 5 and in verse 30, Jesus talks about the value of having healthy hands so that our body or our flesh is not defiled because of the hand. So eyes and hands, all of these things are very, very important for us as children of God, where we need to take care of it so that we don't defile our flesh, we don't defile our bodies. Because the margin of error is so minute, little bit of a mistake here and there, and we might end up in big disaster based on the Word of God. In 2 Peter chapter number 2 and verse number 14, it says, "They have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed, accursed children." So what happens is when our eyes or hands are not trained properly and they become the instrument or the source of defiling our flesh, it directly hits our heart in a way that a heart begins to look outside of God's holiness and end up in what might lead us to destruction and to sinful ways. In 1 John chapter number 2 and verse number 16, the Word of God says, "For all that is in the world, the desire of the flesh, the desire of the eyes, the pride in riches, comes not from the Father, but from the world." So these defilements, of course, our body, our eyes, our hands, all those things are God's gift to us. But when we don't train it the way it should be trained based on the Word of God, what could happen is these same sources might be used by the world, for the world, and therefore it will lead us to desire more of the flesh, desire more of the eyes, desire more of the world, and that way we would draw away from the Word of God. But Paul in Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 18 also tells us what a healthy eye outside and inside can do. Let me read it for you. "So that with the eyes of your heart enlightened, you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, what are the riches of his glorious inheritance among the saints." So if we train our outward eye properly, that will lead to a healthy eye inwardly, and the eyes of our heart will be able to see and observe the right things the right way for a right purpose. And that is why it is so important for us to understand the teachings of Jesus, which are highlighted in a way that we will stay away from all those lusts that can come through our eyes and our heart and our hands and lead us to sinful ways. All these verses, when you get time, you read all the verses, all the references that I gave above, and that will be really helpful for us. Now, the thought of defiling the flesh and how these false teachers and false prophets use them to mislead people are very interesting. May God give us the grace to have healthy eyes, healthy ears and mouth and everything, so that we will stay away from them contaminating our hearts and thus end up contaminating and defiling our flesh. God bless you and have a great day.
Dear listener, we are here to stand with you in your time of need. We want to pray with you and for your prayer request. Do you need someone to talk to? We are here for you. Call us or send a message at +91 636 425 2164. +91 636 425 2164. God bless you.